It's good to stay away even from romance novels because a lot of times those just stir up desires in our heart as young ladies that cannot be righteously fulfilled.
We don't always use the term courtship because that's kind of broad. So we kind of call it dating with a purpose, and it really means that you're not just gonna go frivolously here, date this person, date that person, and like give away pieces of your heart to these different people. You're gonna purpose to save your heart for one person and then date with a purpose.
The 350 pages of emails and messages between Josh Duggar and his family during his time at Washington County Detention Center keep revealing more and more about the inner workings of this family. And today we are getting into the most explosive parts: Josh's fury at his siblings for abandoning him, his communications with Justin Duggar's in-laws Rob and Hillary Spivey, the messages that reveal how little this family thinks of the girls Josh victimized, and the devastating reality of what Josh's sentence actually means for his future and for Anna's. And I want to be very clear before we get into all of this that what Josh did was criminal. The children in those images are real victims, and nothing in these emails generates sympathy for his crimes. But what these emails do generate is clarity about the hypocrisy and dysfunction at the heart of this family. And that clarity matters because it helps us understand the full scope of what has been happening in this world for decades. Josh only communicated with 2 siblings during his entire time at Washington County Detention: John Duggar and Jessa Duggar. And Jessa reaching out was genuinely unexpected given the public statements that had been made. And Josh spent significant time expressing anger and frustration at all of his other siblings for what he described as abandoning him. And one of the points he made that is oddly and uncomfortably true is that many of his siblings had been involved in prison ministry for years, regularly visiting inmates and ministering to people with similar offenses to his own, traveling to Florida and other states to do jail ministry, going to VA hospitals, serving perfect strangers in natural disasters. And yet, when it was their own brother sitting in a county jail cell, not a single one of them reached out beyond John's one video visit and Jessa's one message. And Josh pointed this out repeatedly in his emails, saying that they were willing to minister to total strangers in similar situations, but could not extend even basic human decency to their own family member. Now, in one of the most significant emails in the entire collection, Josh sent a message to his mom in May of 2022 that is extraordinary in its directness and its pain. He told Michelle that he was not writing about his actions, but about how he had been treated, that whether they believed him or not should not affect how they treated him, that Jim Bob had just told him he was still the same proud guy, while accusing Josh of being prideful. And then he said something that cuts right to the heart of how this family operates. He asked whether they could air out his siblings' dirty laundry the way his was always aired out, pointing out that in family meetings, he was always the bad example over and over and that his kids had confirmed this was still happening. And then he said something that stops you cold. He told Michelle to ask Austin and Terry about Brandon Forsyth and where he was and what contact they had with him. And Brandon Forsyth is Austin's brother, who was also accused of the same category of crimes involving children and who went to federal prison. And Josh naming him in this context is not subtle. He is pointing directly at the pattern of people around his family who have done exactly what he has been convicted of, and asking why he is being treated as uniquely monstrous when this behavior runs through the entire community. Josh sent another message directly to his family group chat after his sentencing, where he called out the performative nature of the prison ministry that his siblings engaged in, and he pointed out that they traveled to do prison ministry in Florida, went to jail ministry in Washington County before he got there, went to VA hospitals to help veterans, but when it was their own brother in that very jail, none of them came. And he said something in that message that he repeated multiple times across different emails. He told his siblings that they should think carefully because it could be them next, and that statement, made multiple times across different messages, is not a random expression of frustration. It is someone who knows that the people around him have done things that have not yet been made public, and sources who know this family well have consistently said the same thing. There are many more situations in this community that have not yet come to light. The communications with Rob and Hillary Spivey, the parents of Claire Duggar, who is Justin Duggar's wife, are some of the most revealing in the entire document, because Hillary Spivey proves herself to be a world-class gossip who has very strong and very uncharitable opinions about people in the Duggar world. And she and Rob were functioning as essentially Josh and Anna's support system during this entire period. Passing messages, attending family events with Anna, reporting back to Josh about what was happening. And in one email, Hillary described being at a family event where Ginger and Jeremy Vuolo were present, and how hard it was for Anna. And then, in the very next breath, launched into commentary about Nathan Bates needing to go up a size in jeans because marriage had been good to him, and gossip about Logan Smith and Jackson Bates and London, which gives you a very clear picture of the spiritual depth of the support system that Josh and Anna had surrounding them. One of the most disturbing moments in the entire email collection comes when Anna forwarded Josh a message she had seen from someone in their community in the days after his sentencing. Someone had written that they could not wrap their mind around the justice system putting a citizen away for so long for what they called a victimless crime, that society was losing a productive member, a business owner, a father, a husband, a taxpayer. And Anna forwarded this to Josh, presumably to comfort him, or show him that people out there believed in him. And I want to be very direct about this. Child sexual abuse material is not a victimless crime. Every image represents a real child who was really harmed. And the fact that someone in their community circulated this message and that Anna forwarded it to her husband as a form of comfort tells you about the moral framework operating in this world. Josh's response to learning the full implications of his sentence is one of the most emotionally raw moments in the entire collection. He wrote to Anna that according to the court he could not be a dad anymore forever, that it was sickening, that the lies spoken against him had ruined his appetite, that he kept telling himself he was not who they said he was, that he woke up at night hoping this bad dream would be over, and that he was hurting for Anna and hurting for his children and asking God why he could not come home. And while there is something humanly recognizable in the grief of a parent losing access to their children, the critical context is that this situation was entirely of his own making, through choices he made that harmed real victims, and the grief is real but the accountability is absent. Now I want to explain very clearly what Josh's sentence actually means for his future, because there is a lot of confusion about this, and it has direct implications for Anna and her children. Josh received a sentence of approximately 12.5 years in federal prison and will then be on supervised federal release for 20 years, meaning that at any point during those 20 years, he can be returned to prison if he violates the terms of his release. And the terms of his release are extraordinarily restrictive. He cannot live anywhere that has not been approved by his probation officer. He cannot have any unsupervised contact with minors, which explicitly includes his own children. Contact with his children must be supervised by Anna or his parents or another individual approved by the probation office. He cannot attend any place, function, or event where there is a potential for inadvertent contact with a minor without prior approval from the U.S. Probation Office, meaning he cannot go to an amusement park, a baseball game, a school event, or virtually any normal family activity without getting advance permission, and he cannot have a computer or electronic device with internet access or photo storage capabilities. And supervised contact does not mean what some people seem to think it means. It does not mean that as long as Anna is in the house, Josh can live there with his children. It means supervised contact in an appropriate setting where someone is actively monitoring the interaction. And Josh himself understood this, which is why he wrote that he could not be a dad anymore forever, because he knows that the reality of those conditions means he cannot function as a parent in any normal sense of the word. Now the implications of all of this for Anna are something that needs to be stated very directly, because Anna is making decisions right now that will determine whether she gets to keep her children when Josh is eventually released. In the state of Arkansas, knowingly exposing your children to a registered sex offender can result in your children being removed and you being deemed not a protective parent, meaning that when Josh is released from federal prison and becomes a registered sex offender living in the community, if Anna chooses to live with him or allow him unsupervised access to their children, she risks losing those children to the state. And one of her children will only be 12 years old when Josh is released, meaning the majority of her children will still be minors when she faces this choice, and the stakes will be enormous. The comparison to Kendra Duggar's situation is direct and intentional. Kendra has the opportunity right now to make the choice that Anna has not made, to separate from Joseph, to cooperate with authorities, to demonstrate that she is a protective parent who will put her children's safety above her loyalty to her husband. And everyone around Kendra, who is encouraging her to stay with Joseph, is not helping her. They are setting her up for the same impossible situation that Anna will face when Josh is released. And the difference is that Kendra still has time to choose a different path while the window is open. The broader picture that emerges from these 350 pages is of a family and a community where the public performance of Christian values and the private reality of how those values are actually lived could not be further apart. Where prison ministry is performative rather than genuine, where radical forgiveness is the theology until it becomes inconvenient, where every sin is supposedly equal, until one of those sins becomes publicly known and then suddenly it is uniquely monstrous. Where the girls who were victimized by Josh were told for years that their pain was less important than the family's image, and then the men who married those girls used their wives' victimization as ammunition in their own public positioning. And where Josh Duggar sitting in a jail cell repeatedly telling his family to think about how they would want to be treated because it could happen to them next, is not an empty threat but an informed prediction from someone who knows exactly what has been happening around him his entire life. These emails do not make Josh Duggar sympathetic. He is a convicted predator who harmed real victims and whose manipulation of Anna from behind bars is itself a form of ongoing abuse. But they do make the Duggar family system transparent in a way that nothing else has, and what they reveal is a system that has always prioritized image over integrity, profit over protection, and reputation over the real human beings who were harmed. And that system did not end with Josh Duggar's conviction. It is still running, it is still producing the same outcomes, and the only thing that has changed is that more people are finally willing to say so out loud.